Hello, my name is Blair Lavoie. I'm the president of MWH Constructors. We are a large engineering and construction company focused on the water sector. We work for many different clients, from the municipal side to the federal side to the private side. Over the next 30 minutes, you're going to be hearing about a very important subject, which is safety, our Safe Start video. As many of you know, my true passion is project delivery. And I can tell you this, you can be under budget, you can be ahead of schedule, and if we have a poor safety program, we do not have a successful project. So with that, safety is our #1 focus here at MWH. Safe Start is our brand. This is our true brand promoting safety. So I look forward to seeing you on job site. Thank you very much.
March 24th, 2011. I'm working as a project manager building a new wastewater treatment plant near Ogden, Utah. It's a big job, about $130 million. At this point, we're 2 years into construction. The job is going well. In fact, the only significant piece of work we have left to complete is the new headworks facility. March 24th begins like every other day on the construction project with a 7 a.m. safety meeting. The weather that morning was a mixture of sleet and snow and rain, but that's not unusual for Ogden during the winter. And so when the safety meeting completed, work began as usual. I made my way back to the office trailers. At 8:30 that morning, I got a call from our superintendent down at the headworks facility. He said, "Ben, there's been an accident and emergency personnel are on their way." So I immediately made my way down to the headworks, and it was there that I found one of our construction employees on the ground, and the MWH Safety professional was giving CPR. The employee's name is Jeremiah. Jeremiah is the foreman for our masonry subcontractor. And that morning, Jeremiah and his crew were building a chimney to encase a large exhaust duct. Now the chimney was quite high, and Jeremiah and his guys were working off scaffolding at about 45 feet in the air. Weren't any eyewitnesses to the event, but his crew all reported the same thing, which is at one moment Jeremiah was there working with them, building the chimney. The next minute they heard a loud noise and Jeremiah was gone. Jeremiah had fallen from the scaffolding to the ground below. It wasn't just a couple minutes after I got on the site that emergency paramedics arrived and they took over the CPR. Within a short time period after that, the Flight for Life helicopter landed. It landed nearby on a flat area, and the paramedics transported Jeremiah over to the helicopter, and I was right behind. When I got to the helicopter, I talked to the paramedics, and that's where I found out that Jeremiah had passed away. The accident happened on a Thursday. The job site was shut down on a Friday, and I think I spent most of that weekend in shock. The true impact of what had happened didn't hit me until early the following week, and that's when I attended the funeral service. March 24th, 2011, the day that safety took on a very personal meaning for me. Imagine if you were the project manager on that job and you could have done something to prevent that accident from happening. Imagine if you were one of Jeremiah's coworkers. Maybe you saw an unsafe condition or an unsafe act and didn't take the time to correct it. Imagine if you were Jeremiah's wife and you had to raise a young son and a young daughter without a father. And imagine if you were Jeremiah and you knew something that was going to happen that day meant you'd never get to see your family again. In the construction industry, we talk a lot about safety. We talk about the importance of safety planning. We talk about having the right tools and the right equipment. And we talk about how we measure ourselves, days without a lost time incident and other metrics. All of that's important. But the thing that really matters, the thing that truly matters at the end of the day is that you go home safely to be with your friends and family.
Basic Safety Rules for Construction, an Employee Orientation and Training Manual by MWH Constructors, Building a Better World. You have all received your copy in either English or Spanish of the MWH Basic Safety Rules for Construction book. We are going to spend the next 50 minutes reviewing the safety rules outlined in this book. Please pay close attention. At the conclusion of the computer-based training, you will be asked to acknowledge that you have read or have had read to you the rules listed in this handbook. General safety. This company has safety rules to keep you from getting hurt on the job. It is your responsibility to learn these rules and follow them at all times. Not following safety rules may result in disciplinary action, up to and including dismissal. If you don't understand a safety rule or don't know the safe way to do something, stop and ask your supervisor. Only trained, qualified operators may use powder-actuated tools, PATs. Violent and/or abusive behavior, horseplay, or fooling around is not permitted on the job. Guns, knives, except work knives, or other types of weapons or explosives are not allowed on the job at any time. Report anything you think is unsafe to your supervisor, like damaged or defective equipment. All warning signs, safety, and security rules must be followed at all times. You must report all injuries and illnesses to your supervisor right away. The use, possession, or being under the influence of illegal drugs or alcohol is not allowed on the job. Smoking is never allowed in battery charging areas or around propane tanks. Gases from batteries and propane are extremely flammable. Fueling forklifts or other motorized equipment with gasoline, diesel fuel, or propane must be done outside. Gas must be kept in UL-approved spark-arresting safety cans. Plastic jugs shall never be used to store flammable liquid. Inappropriate physical and/or verbal conduct of a sexual nature, including staring, gawking, whistling, and/or shouting, is strictly prohibited. Weather safety. Drink plenty of fluids. Dehydration can happen in hot or cold weather. Don't wear tight clothes. They can make your body's job of circulating coolant or antifreeze, which is blood, much harder, like pinching a radiator hose. Don't drink alcoholic beverages before or during work. Alcohol dehydrates or dries out your body and slows your circulation, making you colder or hotter. Avoid smoking cigarettes. Nicotine affects your circulation, making it harder to cool down or warm up. When it's cold, dress warmly. Use layers of clothes that you can put on or take off as the temperature changes. Don't forget hats, gloves, and warm shoes or boots. Most body heat is lost from your head, hands, and feet. Frostbite and hypothermia are serious conditions. If you think you're getting either, tell your supervisor and get medical attention if necessary. When it's hot, try to wear lightweight or light-colored clothes. Light colors reflect heat. Dark colors absorb heat. With heat illnesses, you might stop sweating and/or have dizziness, cramps, nausea, and intense thirst. Heat illnesses are serious conditions. If you or one of your coworkers is having heat illness symptoms, get inside or wherever you can cool down. Tell your supervisor and get medical attention if necessary. PPE, personal protective equipment. There are different types of PPE for different jobs. If you don't know what PPE you should be using, ask your supervisor. There are many kinds of respirators to protect against breathing harmful dusts, mists, and fumes. Respirators don't work if they don't fit properly. Fit test your respirator before each use. Number 1, put on the respirator. Number 2, cup your hands over the mask or otherwise block the flow of air into the mask. Number 3, breathe in deeply. The mask should collapse towards your face. When you breathe out, the mask should remain sealed on your face. It fits if it doesn't leak air from around the edges when you breathe in and out. If it doesn't fit, tell your supervisor. You must wear the right gloves when you are exposed to hazardous chemicals, BBPs, cuts, or burns. Cotton, general protection. Chemical resistant, protection from chemical burns, harmful liquids, BBPs. Leather, heavy-duty, dry protection. When working with liquids, gloves should be cuffed at the top to keep liquids from getting on your arm. Hard hats must be worn with the brim forward at all times while on the construction site. The suspension of a hard hat must be adjusted to fit snugly and to keep the shell of the hat at least 1 1/4 inch above the top of your head. Proper eye-face protection must be worn at all times while on the job site. You must wear hard-soled work boots that may also include rubber boots and/or metatarsal guards. Ensure shoe punctures are considered during hazard analysis. Hearing protection must be worn where there are signs instructing you to do so, or you work in an area where you have to shout to be heard by someone less than 2 feet away. Plain cotton inserted in the ear is not acceptable hearing protection. Whenever possible, you should not share your PPE with anyone else. Cord safety. The most common cause of on-the-job electrocutions is using the wrong type or damaged extension cords. Check cords carefully before each use. If a cord is damaged in any way, is missing a ground pin, or has been spliced together, remove it from service and clearly label or tag it as damaged so no one else can use it. Only use cords that are approved for hard or extra hard service. These cords will be marked every 2 feet. Markings include S, ST, SO, STO, SJ, SJO, SJT, and SJTO. Extension cords should not be used as permanent wiring. If any equipment or cord gives you even a slight shock when you touch it, unplug it and tell your supervisor right away. When using adapters, you must screw the outlet cover plate screw through the grounding lead to ground the connection. Grounding pins will not protect unless they are connected to a grounding pin receptacle. Approved cords will be 3-wire, grounding, stranded wiring, with a protective covering. They will also have strain relief devices, grounding pins, and grounding pin receptacles. To keep cords safe and free of damage, pull the plug, not the cord. Never alter a GFCI or grounding pin. Don't yank cords around sharp corners, and don't leave cords where they can be run over. All portable tools that are not double insulated or marked double insulated or have double insulated symbols must have a grounding pin. If not, remove the tool from service. If someone is being shocked, do not touch them. Turn off the power or unplug the cord. If you can't do this, use a dry piece of rope or wood, such as a broom handle, to pry the cord or tool away from the victim. Water conducts electricity. Use cords long enough for the job. Don't string or connect cords together. Accidents and emergencies. Accidents happen. Being prepared can be the difference between life and death. This company keeps well-stocked first aid kits, fire extinguishers, and posts emergency phone numbers at every job site. You must know 1. Where first aid kits are kept. 2. Where phones and emergency numbers are posted. 3. Where fire alarms and/or extinguishers are located. 4. Emergency evacuation routes to get out of the building quickly. If you can hear thunder, you are close enough to get hit by lightning. If stuck outside, find low ground, away from tall or metal objects. Squat with your heels together. Watch. Warning. A weather watch means conditions are right and that type of weather might happen. A weather warning means that type of weather is happening in the watch area. Blood-borne diseases or pathogens, BBPs, like HIV and hepatitis, can be present in body fluids, including blood and saliva. To be safe, you must assume that all body fluids have BBPs in them. Do not render first aid unless you have been trained to do so. You should always wear latex or rubber gloves and safety glasses with side shields when you may come in contact with someone else's body fluids. When calling for emergency help, make sure to give 1. The type of emergency, fire, medical, other. 2. Your name and the phone number you are calling from. 3. The exact location of the victim. If you are the first one on an accident scene, survey the scene. Don't enter if you can't do it safely. Check for falling objects, spreading fire, live electrical wires, and so forth. Stay calm. If you stay calm, the victim will too. Send someone else to get or call for help. Wait calmly with the victim until help arrives. Do not give first aid unless you have been trained to do so. If you do take action, you are doing so as a good Samaritan, not as a representative of the company. Do not move a victim unless they are in immediate danger. If you must move them, use the clothes drag method. 1. Grab the victim's clothes at the shoulder. 2. Support their head between your forearms. 3. Drag them to safety by their clothes. Fire safety. Fire needs 4 things to burn. Fuel, anything that will burn, such as solid, liquid, or gas. Heat, the energy to increase the temperature of the fuel to the point the fire starts. Oxygen, fire needs about 16% oxygen. The air we breathe is about 21%. And chemical chain reaction, when heat, oxygen, and fuel come together in the right amounts and conditions to start a fire. If one of these things is missing, fire will not burn. There are 3 basic types of fires. They are rated by the type of fuel that is burning. Class A, ordinary solid fuels like paper, wood, cloth, rubber, and some plastics. Class B, flammable liquids or gases like gasoline, paints, propane, etc. Class C, electrical fires. Extinguishers work on different types of fires. The ratings are on the extinguisher. Some work on several types of fires and are marked with multiple ratings, such as AB, BC, or ABC. To operate a fire extinguisher, remember PASS. P, pull the pin. A, aim at the base of the fire. S, squeeze the trigger. S, sweep from side to side. We have an emergency action plan that includes 1. Escape routes and procedures. 2. Mapping these routes and exits. 3. A head counting procedure to make sure everyone is out. You must be familiar with this plan. If a fire is spreading, blocking your exit, or you don't have a proper extinguisher, don't take chances. Get out. Hazard communication. Paint thinner, concrete products, adhesives, coatings, and other chemicals that we use every day may contain chemicals that could hurt you. That is why we have written Hazard Communication Program, or HAZCOM, that includes hazard evaluation, chemical manufacturers finding out what and how the things they make are hazardous. Container labeling, making sure that all hazardous materials have product warning labels. Material safety data sheets, MSDSs, that have detailed information about the hazardous materials we may handle, and training so that you can do your job safely. The written HAZCOM program and MSDSs are available for your review during all working hours. You should review the MSDS before using a product for the first time. We keep an MSDS on every hazardous material you may handle. You must know where these MSDSs are located and know how to read them. All hazardous material containers must have labels that describe the hazardous material, how it is dangerous, such as hazard warnings, and the name, address, and phone number of the manufacturer. If something is poured into another container, such as a bottle or bucket, etc., it must be labeled. If you can't read, or there is no label on the container, don't use it. Tell your supervisor right away. Don't store chemicals near heat, electrical equipment, or in direct sunlight. Chemicals that should not be mixed, such as ammonia and bleach, should not be stored together. Nothing should be blocking or covering container labels. Dispose of all chemicals the way you are instructed to on the label or MSDS. Do not just pour them down the drain, flush them in the toilet, or pour them on the ground. Try to guess what's in the unlabeled containers by sniffing what's in them. A small sniff can be deadly. Never mix chemicals without carefully reading the instructions. Never mix ammonia and bleach. The fumes from this combination are deadly. Never smoke while mixing, spraying, or pouring chemicals. Never handle or mix chemicals without wearing the necessary personal protective equipment, PPE. Housekeeping. How neat and clean we keep our workplace shows our level of pride and professionalism. It also helps keep our workplace safe. Keep work areas, walkways, stairs, and aisles free of clutter like waste, trash, tools, hoses, and cords. Secure loose materials and scrap that might blow around, especially on roofs or other heights. Keep debris and stored materials at least 10 feet away from deck edges and at least 6 feet from floor and/or roof openings. Place oily rags and swabs in approved covered receptacles. Pick up tools, hoses, and so forth after each use. Remove or flatten protruding nails from scrap lumber. Clean up or spread absorbent material on spills right away, especially drywall mud or sprinkler pipe leaks or grease on smooth tile-painted concrete or slick-finished concrete floors. If you have to leave the area or it's not practical to finish, clearly mark the area to call attention to it. This can be done with signs, buckets, boxes, or anything else that will call someone's attention to the area. Never store anything in front of or in any way blocking exits, firefighting, or first aid and emergency equipment or electrical panels. Preventing slips, trips, and falls. Most slips happen when either your shoes or what you're walking on is wet or slippery. Be careful if it's snowing, icy, raining, wet, or muddy outside, especially when entering smooth floored areas from outside. Be extra careful when walking through areas where drywall is being finished or sprinkler heads are being cut. Watch where you step. Check for ice, mud, or other slick spots in front of the door when getting in and out of vehicles. Wear proper slip-resistant shoes that are laced and tied at all times. Don't leave spills or slippery spots alone for the next person to slip on. Clean up all spills and or slip hazards right away, or call for help and wait until help arrives. If you have to leave the spot, like to get a mop, clearly mark the area to call attention to it. This can be done with signs, buckets, boxes, or anything else that will call attention to the slippery area. Make sure electrical cords are not trip hazards. Never leave cords on the floor where others might walk without the cord being taped down. Don't carry loads that block your vision. Get someone to help you carry the load or guide you while you carry it. Take stairs one step at a time while keeping one hand on the handrail. Do not run, skip, or jump stairs. Report or replace burned out light bulbs. You can't avoid slip or trip hazards you can't see. Never jump from the bed of a pickup, the cab of a van or truck, a loaded dock, or any other elevated surface. Use the stairs. Material handling. Lifting light things carelessly and heavy things the wrong way can cause back injuries. When you lift, use proper techniques. Square up to the object as close to it as you can. Your feet should be slightly apart with one foot just behind the other. Squat down to the load. Bend your knees while keeping your back straight and as close to vertical as possible. Get a good grip using your whole hand, not just your fingers. Gloves should be worn when handling material. Materials to be lifted should be gripped at opposite corners. Lift with your legs while keeping your back vertical and arms and elbows close to your body. Shoveling is the same as lifting, so the same rules apply. Plan before you lift. Check the load for weight, sharp edges, splinters, etc. Make sure your path is free of trip hazards. If a load is hard to lift and or handle alone, like plywood or sheetrock, get help. Never reach over something to lift something else. Either move what's in your way or go around it. Never lift or handle material by the packing band. Don't twist your body while handling a load. Move your feet instead. This is really important when shoveling or throwing trash in a dumpster or truck. When unbanding material, wear gloves, safety glasses, and stand to the side of the band, never in front of it. When hauling water or other liquid, do not fill 5-gallon buckets more than half full. They will be easier to handle and less likely to spill. Hand trucks and other material handling equipment are recommended when handling heavy loads. Tool and machinery safety. When tools or equipment are designed to have guards, the guard must be on when the tool or equipment is in use. Never alter or bypass machine guards in any way. Ingoing nip points, the point where a belt or chain is pulled onto a gear or wheel, must be guarded. Grinders must have side shields over the end of the stone or wire wheel, and tool rests within 1/8 inch of the stone or wheel. Circular saws must have guards above and below the base plate that automatically return to the covering position when the saw is pulled out of the work. Keep saw blades adjusted so they are deep enough to do the work, but no deeper. Use push sticks or other hand tools to help keep your hands out of the danger zone. Carefully inspect all pneumatic tool lines and connections for damage before each use. Make sure pneumatic tools are firmly connected to the hose before using the tool. Carefully inspect all chains, slings, hooks, and latches before each use. Never use wrenches that have been sprung to the point where slippage occurs. Impact tools, chisels, and so forth must not have mushroomed heads. Gas cylinders that are not in use must be secured in an upright position with valve protection caps on. Gas cylinders that are in use must be secured in a cart with the regulators attached. Oxygen and acetylene cylinders must be separated by at least 20 feet when not in use. Don't wear gloves or loose clothing, especially clothes with drawstrings, when working on or with moving machinery. If you have long hair, tie it back or put it up under a hat before working with, on, or around moving machinery. Lockout, tagout. If you are in a situation where the unexpected startup of machinery, electrical current, or the release of stored energy could hurt you, lockout, tagout, LOTO rules must be followed. 1. To LOTO a piece of equipment, turn it off, press stop, flip the switch, close the valve, etc. 2. Isolate it from the energy source. Unplug it, flip the circuit breaker off, close the main valve, etc. 3. Put on and lock and/or tag energy control devices. Turn it off, isolate it, lock it. 4. Control stored energy like that found in springs, hydraulic systems, raised or elevated parts, etc., by repositioning, blocking, or bleeding down. 5. Make sure energy is off, stored energy is controlled, and all moving parts, especially moving saw blades, have stopped before you start working on or near them. Before restarting the equipment, make sure 1. All tools have been removed. 2. All guards are attached. 3. Everyone knows you are about to start the equipment. Never tamper with or remove someone else's lock or tag. Leave it alone. If more than one person needs to LOTO equipment, each shall place his or her own personal lock on the energy isolating device or devices, or a multiple LOTO device, HASP. If the equipment or machine will not accept a multiple LOTO device, a single lock may be used. The single key must be placed in a lockout box or cabinet that allows the use of multiple locks to secure it. Each coworker will then use his or her own lock to secure the box or cabinet. As each person no longer needs to keep their lockout protection, that person will remove their lock from the equipment, multiple LOTO device, HASP, box, or cabinet. There are specific procedures for switching LOTO between shifts. You must be familiar with these procedures. Ladder safety. When you need a ladder, use a ladder. Don't use boxes, chairs, or buckets. Set up ladders with the feet 1 foot out from the base of the vertical support for every 4 feet up. The top of the ladder must extend at least 3 feet beyond the landing area. Lock, tie, or otherwise attach the ladder near the top to prevent movement. Use barricades, cones, or warning tape around the ladder whenever possible. This keeps people from hitting the ladder or getting hit if you drop something. When climbing a ladder, you must keep 3 points of contact with the ladder at all times. Never use bricks, blocks, or other unstable objects for ladder footings. Set up ladders on level, stable ground and not in front of closed doors. Never reach over an arm's length beyond the side rails of a ladder. Be sure step ladders are fully open and the spreaders are locked before climbing. Never use a step ladder like a straight ladder. Don't work sideways from a step ladder. It should be facing what you need to reach. Never sit, climb, or stand on the top 2 steps or rungs of a step ladder. Never jump from a ladder. Climb all the way down. Scaffold safety. All scaffolds 10 feet or more above the floor must have the following on all open sides and ends. Minimum requirements. Baker requires all of the following, or 100% tie-off requirements shall be met. A top rail 38 to 45 inches above the work platform. A mid-rail halfway between the top rail and the work platform. A toe board at least 3 1/2 inches high. A screen with holes no bigger than 1/2 inch must be installed between the toe boards and the top rail on all scaffolds where people work or pass underneath. Railings must be supported at a maximum of every 8 feet. Guardrails are not required on the side of a scaffold platform that is less than 14 inches from the face of the work. Work platforms must be at least 18 inches wide. They may be either fabricated scaffold platforms or scaffold-grade planks. Scaffold platforms must be able to support without failure their own weight and at least 4 times the intended load. Planks must extend at least 6 inches, but no more than 18 inches beyond the end of their support. Scaffold planks should overlap a minimum of 12 inches. It is especially important to keep scaffold platforms neat and free of trash and/or clutter. Supported or framed scaffolds with a height-to-base width ratio of more than 4 to 1 must be restrained by guying, tying, or bracing. When scaffold platforms are more than 2 feet above or below a point of safe access, ladders set up so they will not tip the scaffold must be used. Climbing cross braces and/or scaffold frames to get on a scaffold is strictly forbidden. A designated, competent person must inspect and approve all scaffolds before every work shift and after every change in the scaffold. Guarding floor and wall openings. All open-sided floors and/or openings where someone could fall 6 feet or more need a standard guarding system. Standard guarding systems include a top rail between 39 inches and 45 inches above the work surface, a mid-rail halfway between the top rail and the work surface. Toe boards when falling material may cause a hazard. Guardrails must be supported at least every 8 feet, secured at both ends, and strong enough to support a 200-pound force in every direction. Wire rope guarding must be kept tight, free of sags, and clearly flagged every 6 feet. Every window wall opening from which there is a drop of more than 6 feet and the bottom of the openings is less than 39 inches above the work surface must be guarded. Every manhole opening must be guarded by a standard manhole cover. While the cover is not in place, the opening must be constantly attended by someone or protected by a removable guarding system. If the guarding system interferes with the work, it may be temporarily removed if all co-workers exposed to a fall are tied off and the system is replaced as soon as possible. Floor, roof, and skylight openings bigger than 2 inches in their smallest dimension must have a guarding system or be offset so that a person cannot walk straight into the opening. Openings in guarding systems that lead to stairs, ramps, or ladders must have either a gate that locks in the closed position or a secured cover strong enough to carry the weight of several people. Drywall, sheathing, or other like materials must never be used as opening covers. Fall protection. Fall protection is required when co-workers could fall 6 feet or more. Certain specific activities like steel erection have different minimum height requirements. If you are unsure about the type and/or need for fall protection, ask your supervisor. Fall protection is required regardless of height when co-workers are working above or next to dangerous equipment. Conventional types of fall protection include guardrail systems, covers, safety nets, and personal fall arrest (PFA) systems. Before using personal fall arrest equipment, you must be trained. You'll need to know the equipment's limits, proper hookup, anchoring, and tie-off techniques. You must also be trained so that you know how to safely use, inspect, and store the equipment. Body belts and non-locking snap hooks are not acceptable as part of a personal fall arrest system. Carefully inspect all fall protection equipment before each use. Don't use damaged equipment. Return it to your supervisor right away. Adjust harnesses so they fit snugly with the flat side of the D-ring positioned between the shoulder blades. Free fall length must be no longer than 6 feet. Shock-absorbing lanyards, however, are designed to stretch another 3.5 feet to slow the fall before stopping it. Most self-retracting lifelines or lanyards limit the fall distance to 2 feet. Never connect 2 snap hooks together. Consider the fall distance to the hazard below. Make sure to adjust your lanyard lifeline or use a shorter one so that it stops your fall instead of the hazard. When picking anchorage, make sure it can hold at least 5,000 pounds. Minimum anchorage for self-retracting lines that limit fall distance to 2 feet is 3,000 pounds. Don't wrap your lanyard or lifeline around anything with sharp edges that may cut the lanyard or lifeline. Make sure to anchor to a point above your D-ring. The higher your anchor, the shorter your fall. Anything below the D-ring adds to your fall distance. Traffic control. Working on our nation's roads and highways is one of the most dangerous occupations in the country. That is why we have developed a written traffic control plan that addresses workers, pedestrians, and drivers. All co-workers are required to wear orange or fluorescent reflective at night vests that make them visible from a distance of at least 1,000 feet. If you are working as a flagger, you must be certified. Never stand directly in front of or turn your back on an oncoming vehicle. Have an escape route planned in case of emergency. Pre-arrange a signal, or whistle, air horn blast, or something like that to warn other workers in case of an emergency. Never leave your position unattended. Wait for a replacement. You must wear a shirt under your vest at all times. Keep traffic control signs clean and warning lights working. Remember to remove flagger ahead or warning signs when not needed. Heavy equipment safety. Never operate equipment of any kind unless you have been trained to do so. Equipment must be kept in good working order. If it is damaged, defective, or not running right, tell your supervisor right away. If the equipment has rollover protection, ROPS, seat belts must be worn whenever the equipment is being used. All machines must be turned off, raisable parts lowered, and brakes set when they are not in use or unattended. Equipment operators must make sure backup alarms work properly at all times. Operators must secure all loose items in their equipment cab. Be careful around heavy equipment, especially when wearing hearing protection or headphones. Never distract equipment operators. Never jump from or the cab of a van or truck. Always maintain 3 points of contact when getting on or off or in or out of vehicles and/or equipment. Never walk behind or alongside moving equipment. Never walk, stand, or work under raised or suspended loads. Do not put any part of your body in or around moving parts. Smoking is not allowed around refueling equipment. You must keep the operator in sight when guiding equipment back. Never stand next to or near equipment being loaded. Look out for falling trees and limbs while grubbing or clearing a site. Hitchhiking or riding on equipment in other than the operator's seat is not allowed. Crane safety. Only people who have been specifically trained and certified are permitted to operate cranes. Barricades around the swing area of a revolving cab must be used when operating a crane in areas where pedestrians or traffic pass close by. Never operate cranes closer than 10 feet from power lines. Lines carrying greater than 50,000 volts require greater distances. Before lifting, carefully inspect all rigging, slings, hooks, etc. Report any damage or defects to your supervisor right away. Never work or stand under suspended loads. Watch out for materials that could fall on you if they were hit by a suspended load. Make sure to provide yourself a way out when directing load drops. Riding on the ball hook, rigging, or load is not allowed at any time. Never approach a load unless tag lines are being used until the load has come to a complete stop. Never use crane cables as a sling, cushion rigging from sharp edges, or corners that may damage it. When it is necessary to guide a suspended load, tag lines must be used. Don't distract the crane operator, especially while the load is in the air. Make sure you are familiar with all hand signals and whistles. If you are not sure, ask your supervisor. Remember, only one signalman may be used at a time. Trench safety. Locate all underground utilities before digging. Call the Utilities Protection Center, UPC, at least 72 hours before digging to have utility companies mark their lines. When digging, make sure to keep all excavated materials and/or other stored materials at least 2 feet from the edge of the trench. Make sure to direct surface water, rain runoff, away from the trench. Use barricades, signals, and/or stop logs to keep traffic and equipment away from the edge of the trench. Any trench 5 feet or deeper must be one of the following: sloped, benched, shored, or shielded. A designated competent person must inspect and supervise all trenching and/or excavating on a daily basis. The competent person must have knowledge of the OSHA codes or rules about trenches, soils analysis, protective systems, and authority and control of the workforce. The air in and around a trench must be regularly tested by the competent person. If a hazardous condition exists or could develop, emergency rescue equipment must be close by. You should never get in a trench that is not being supervised by a designated competent person. Remember, everyone exposed to traffic must wear reflective vests. The edges of a trench 6 feet or deeper must be protected by proper guardrails when the edge of the trench can't easily be seen. Ladders, ramps, or other safe means of exiting the trench need to be within 25 feet of workers in the trench. When providing walkways across trenches 6 feet deep or deeper, proper guardrails must be installed on the walkways. In the event you encounter someone caught in a trench cave-in, call for help. Do not jump in and try a rescue. Confined spaces. A confined space is large enough to enter, hard to get in and out of, and can't be worked in for long periods of time. Examples of confined spaces include trenches, tanks, elevator shafts, and boilers. Some confined space dangers include not enough oxygen in the air, flammable or poisoned air. Keep in mind that many poisonous gases are heavier than air, so while the air in one part of the confined space may be okay, it may be deadly in another part. The air in a confined space must be tested before anyone enters. It must also be tested at regular intervals while they are in the space. Rescuing someone in a confined space can be very difficult. This makes working in confined spaces even more dangerous. Only people who have been specifically trained may enter confined spaces. Confined spaces must be marked with warning signs to keep out people that haven't been trained. You must never work alone when working in or around a confined space. Never smoke or use tools that might spark when working in or around confined spaces. Don't attempt to rescue someone in a confined space by yourself. Get help instead.